The news this morning is that they're Satanists. Like, they acknowledge it. But I don't know if it's like a technicality or if it's an actual commitment in name. And somebody says they're in big trouble because they never prosecuted what was done to my mother. And apparently, my mother was actually very important, and what was done to her was actually that horrendous. And that at some point in time, somebody should have prosecuted for something having to do with my mother, but they didn't. And I'm not allowed to pay twice. That's what I heard. You're not allowed to use me to pay twice. And apparently, you just tried to do that. That you did take my entire life and you did use it for some really heinous the Holocaust. And I paid. And you're trying to do it again. And the thing is, you used me again. And you're not allowed to do that. And I don't know who it is that thinks they have the authority to say that, because if they have the authority to say that, then they should also have the authority to say you weren't allowed to do it to begin with. You weren't allowed to do it the first time. And apparently, somebody is making an argument about sacred prostitution. But they're using what was my original petition to the Vatican to do it, which was not about sacred prostitution, by the way. It was about something else. And so now we're at this situation where apparently it was known and that it actually was actually orchestrated event, that I was the kindergarten teacher, meaning the kindergarten teacher from the 2016 presidential campaign. But there wasn't actually any advocacy on my behalf or attempt to try to support my cause, because the truth of the matter is that even if the Trump campaign had identified me as some sort of special selection to be made an example of, so had a number of other people. And that really what you're saying is that somehow the president is able to make his own special edition of stock. And Obama had done that with me and completely genocided my entire world. And then Trump decided he was going to do it too. And that's really what you mean by you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to pay twice. You don't really seem to have a problem with the fact that Obama did it first, and that the material conditions for Obama to be able to do it were based upon what I heard yesterday, right? Which is that you allowed them to contrive a situation to create me and my entire social world, specifically for coinage. And you set a whole bunch of people up, and no matter what we did sincerely, you were arrogant enough to think that you were in so much control that there was no other inevitability for us except to be coined for somebody else's long-term scheme. So we, again, have no agency, and we, again, have no capacity to make a decision for ourselves. And for whatever reason, you really think that you have the authority to have some sort of say in these matters, and that doesn't seem to be a priority. That doesn't seem to be something that's like as omnipresent as the fact that really what you're pissed about is that no, they used me twice, and they're not allowed to do that. And as a result, it's apparently pretty severe. Like, there's like global planetary ramifications. And that you might have let them do it. You might have let them get away with it, except the whole I paid twice is because I acknowledged that the first time you did it, it was based upon some kind of reprisal because I saw the humanity in people you had already agreed to let be genocided for this specific purpose. See, in 2009, after the election in 2008, when they were like, we're going to genocide the Palestinians, that was actually literally correct. That was actually literally a plan, was to genocide the Palestinians as part of the following through from what had happened during the Holocaust. I didn't know all the details at the time. I just knew that was the plan. And I said, you can't do that to anybody, right? But your whole scheme is predicated upon being able to do that. And so somehow there was some deal that was worked out after what happened in Eastern Europe around the Holocaust, that you would let Israel have a country. That's how, again, how powerful and omnipresent you need to be acknowledged as being. You let them have a country, and you didn't really change your Jew hatred and your gold liquidation. You just made somebody else the Jews. And then you tried to do some sort of, recapitulation in the 80s. And as a result of that, you used my mother and you had every intention of using me. And so I was supposed to pay somehow. Me and whoever I was connected to was supposed to pay. And we did. And I think I'm supposed to be dead and to prove a point about how it's very important for a spirit like me and a soul like me to understand that when I'm ordered to die in genocide, I need to die in genocide. You decided to let them do it again. And I'm not dead right now, personally. But pretty much everything I was ever connected to has been assigned as dead, even though they're not maybe actually dead, right? That's what you told me. That they're issued. That when they're issued as dead. That you issue certificates of people as dead with the intent of them dying within a certain period of time. And then all of that ends up going to whoever it was that was also arrogant enough to think that they had an entitlement to buy a certificate of somebody's pending death. And so now we're at this really awkward situation, right? Now, I understand that if I hadn't looked at Palestine last night, you might have let it happen. You might have said, well, I mean, it's really important that his stock get out there. That's what you said. They used you for stock. Again. Okay. I mean, that's the news report, right? Maybe, like I said, maybe Satan is no longer on your side, guys. Maybe you just went too far and you're going to have to deal with that, right? Is it true? Have you done something planetarily that there's no fresh fruit? Did you do that out of spite? Did you think you were going to be some sort of special class of people that were able to, what, hand pollinate flowers and then you'd get fruit and nobody else would? Did you literally genetically modified organisms so substantially that we're not going to have fruit? I mean, that's part of it too. I don't think you mean symbolic fruit. I think you mean actual literal fruit. Well, I mean, I don't know really what to say. I'm not sorry personally that I didn't give in to genocide and I didn't acknowledge that you're that supreme. And I don't know what you want to do about this because you guys let this happen. And here's the thing, I'm not talking to just the police downtown, right? That's not what this consciousness is. And I know you probably took some sort of vow, whether just on one level or another, and you're going to have to deal with that because is it one of those vows that's supposed to last another life? Is it supposed to go into another life? Okay, all right. Are you going to present, at least for a short period of time, information about those children that were murdered? The actual children. Say, I think you're trying to make this First Amendment argument. Somebody wants to say it's a First Amendment argument. Do you really think that it is a First Amendment argument to say that you're entitled to strategically murder, including mass murder, including even genocide people as part of your faith tradition? You're trying to say that what is that, constitutionally protected? So genocide is constitutionally protected? Really? I see. I see. Okay. I'm not really sorry. I'm not really sorry. You know. And apparently you've decided I'm not allowed to pay twice. But the truth of the matter is, the reason I'm not allowed to pay twice is because if you acknowledged that I paid twice, then what you'd have to acknowledge is you fucking failed, and the first time it was fraud. See, you promised them annihilation and genocide of a group of people, and if I can pay twice with those people for your genocide, you didn't fucking succeed the first time. That's how fucking completely bankrupt your entire existential crisis right now is. That's what you just said. The whole intention was that you were going to torment whoever and whatever. I think you really get off on the pain. But in order for this second issue to actually have any value, you would have had to have succeeded in the first. And you can't get anything now because you did not actually deliver on what you promised the first time. Man, that must be incredibly humiliating. It must be devastating to know. You promised them something, and you didn't succeed, and when you tried to get something else, because you didn't succeed the first time, you weren't able to do that either.